Greetings, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Welcome back to my Valheim series. Today we have lucky episode 13. I wonder what that could mean. Apologies for anyone out there that has a overwhelming fear of the number 13. This episode may hopefully provide some assistance. I don't know. You be the judge. Anyway, we have returned to our mountains and we are ready now to try and locate another source of silver. And with no further delay or ado, we get onto that one quite promptly. We do, however, notice our tower over there does actually have a couple of Draugr in it. Now, we don't know if there's a spawner in there as well, but we all have quite a lot of experience with what Draugr spawners are capable of creating. So we're going to lay low for a little bit and then only sort of deal with the Draugr when we're happy with our current situation. Alright, well, so far so good. We've dealt with 2 of them. And now we have number 3. We know there's usually a maximum of 3 around a spawner. Let's see if there is actually a spawner in here. And there isn't. So we get to have a little deep breath to ourselves. Loot our bit of excellent loot that we had there and get back to trying to locate the silver vein. Now, the chest, I really did need to go in there and loot that chest because a chest will actually count as a, particularly if it's buried, it will actually count as a treasure as well. So I wanted to get rid of that just to make sure that it wasn't skewing my detection results. And as you can see, we have found ourselves a silver vein. So we turn our detector off and we get straight into the digging of our customary hole. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that it's getting very dark, and I appear to be breaking my first rule of, you know, being in the mountains, which is not to be out at night. We're starting to get a bit more confidence in our abilities and our food, so we're on the basis that being in a hole does grant a little bit of security. We're actually okay with being here and continuing to mine, at least until things start to look like they could go pear-shaped. Let's see if that happens. I'd been listening to that howl and that drake for a while and they hadn't been getting any closer, so after a quick little scout around, I come to the conclusion that I think we're pretty safe and that we can kind of go ahead and freeze to death. No, just kidding. We've got Bruise there to take care of that. No, we'll be okay to go ahead and break that vein when we're ready. We're not quite ready yet, though. And this is a bit of a dangerous move, because at night, far more than during the day, you will always get multiple wolves. And I was a bit lucky here that none of them actually had any stars to their name. I'm going to tell you now, a 2-star wolf is some scary, scary stuff to deal with. Now, speaking of scary, there's a bit to unpack here, so I've slowed it down. That is something you'll only generally encounter at night. And that is the wolf that I arrowed, and it's a 1-star. Luckily, it was basically dead anyway, so we're all good there. Now, these guys can be a bit of a problem. They're Fenring, they're basically werewolves, and their attacks do hit pretty hard. Now, take on board that my gear, and more particularly my food, means it's much, much, much harder for these mountain critters to knock me off balance. If I didn't have the serpent stew running, I could guarantee that some of those scenarios and some other ones that you will see in coming episodes would have gone very differently for me. So again, I'm going to suggest, if you've got the option to get some serpent stew in your belly before you come to the mountains, particularly early on, before you've got a chance to do any gear upgrades, just do it. Trust me, it will save you bacon. Now, there is an obvious question coming from, it's clear that I'm aware that what I'm doing is a bit dangerous, and there may be a small amount of overconfidence going on here, and definitely there's a good amount of luck that's been working on my side. But you might be thinking, why am I risking all of this to just keep killing wolves, when there's a good chance around the next corner I could be facing either a pack of wolves or, multiple 1 and or 2-star wolves? Why am I risking this? Well, short answer is, as you're going to find in time, the amount of wolf pelts that I need to make my wolf armor is pretty significant. And I do remember running short on a couple of previous run-throughs. So this time round, I'm kind of keen to essentially kill as many as I can whenever I see them. So yes, this is a bit risky, but there is some method to my madness. That said, though, there's quite a lot of madness to my madness as well, but I'm sure you've come to appreciate that in the many, many episodes that we've already encountered in this series. Stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be far more madness in the episodes to come. Eh, drakes are like flying rats. They're irritating, but you learn to deal with them. Anytime you get clear weather in the mountains, great time to get up high and do a bit of a survey of the surrounding biomes, because you can get a bit of advance warning if there's anything particularly horrific waiting for you down, one side of a mountain or another. Example here, I mean, the water is neither here nor there, but on two sides of the mountains there is actually plains. So it's worth noting that, because, if things do go pear-shaped and I need to run for it, I'm not going to run from the cooking pot into the fire by trying to run into an area that's more dangerous than the one that I came from. So, yeah, always know your way out. I bet you thought I was going to leave you hanging until the next episode. Nah, I'd never do that. I just wanted to wait until it was daytime and the visibility was a bit better. We're always going to pop this silver vein, because we are always going to need silver. Well, at least until we get all of our gear upgrades done. And the amount of silver in a vein is reasonably predictable. It may vary a tiny bit from vein to vein, but I mean, you always end up with a bucket load, basically. And it is then a bit of a mammoth task to relay it back to the boat, but rest assured, through the power of editing, we're going to make sure that you don't have to worry about that. After a quick run back and unload at the base, we're now commencing our relay exercises. Doing our usual scouting around just to make sure there's nothing there that wants to eat us. I have left a couple of the relay runs in, sped up of course, but just to show you the sort of resistance that you typically run into on your way back. Obviously there's quite a bit of ground I need to cover to get back to the boat, and with the time delays, usually some stuff has a chance to respawn, and you certainly do not want to be running hell for leather off these mountains, because you'll just kill yourself with falling damage. there will be times that these guys will really, really mess up your day. I'm, you know, reasonably confident killing these things, but there is definitely an element of learning curve in dealing with them. And sometimes, you know, even when you are quote-unquote good at it, you can still demonstrate a significant level of suck and, you know, just be super uncoordinated when you're trying to deal with them. Honestly, I should have just got back to the task at hand, because whatever the Drake was shooting at him, if I got out of range, he would just go after the Drake and he'd ignore me completely. So, you know, if you've got an opening where a Drake is chewing on a golem for you, and you've got better things to do with your time, I'd honestly just take it. This was working quite well until the golem got down to my level, and my health started getting quite low. But luckily I had my bone mass buff, and healing potions, and a small amount of panic. But we are, of course, able to still screw this up a bit. Not to mention have some additional locals, you know, join the fight. The Grey Dwarf is barely an irritation at this point, but anything that's doing damage to you is something worthy of, you know, respect. In this case, he even succeeds in, honestly, I don't know how this Grey Dwarf has managed to survive this long, because everything in the mountains will want to kill him. And I don't know how the Drake or the Golem succeeded in not killing him, but anyway, he's obviously rolled a natural 20 on his luck roll, and managed to survive long enough for me to put an arrow in his head. Needless to say, all of the action is basically over, and we can settle down, loot us some more crystals, and get back to the boat. Ah yes, our old friend, the troll. Trust me, he's down there in the dark, and he did just lose most of his health to a single flame arrow to the head. I'm reaching the point now where it's becoming trivial to kill trolls. And I think I've managed to keep another one or two of these fights, you know, in the series, but there's a point at which I just don't even bother anymore. If you can ambush a troll with a decent arrow to the head, it will, if it doesn't die on the spot, it will get so low that you could, honestly, you could just punch it in the nuts a couple of times and it would die anyway. So, yeah, and I've got so much troll hide back at base already, in spite of already making one fully upgraded set of troll armor. So, trolls, yeah, they're officially on my trivial list at this stage. Alright, and we've proceeded now to our optimised unloading runs, much like I did with the swamp and the crypts. You've seen basically what the mountains look like, you've seen what typical resistance looks like, so I'm now just sort of skipping the runbacks. Rest assured, if there is anything, you know, challenging or interesting that pops up, I'll certainly include those, but whenever it's just a straightforward run back, I've just been doing the old fast forward button. Now here's an example of something interesting coming up. We've got another one of these fen rings or werewolves. Now, with the exception of the stone golems, you are going to find that most of the critters in the mountains, I'm going to classify them as glass cannons, in the sense that they do tend to hit pretty hard, but proportionally they don't have very much in the way of health. So if you can weather their onslaught, they do tend to die pretty easily. Alright, well, we've emptied out that trench, and I'm having a good look at that boat. Well, half a boatload worth of silver, and I'm thinking, you know what? I could do a lot of good with that. And I have a bit of a think, and I have another bit of a think, and I decide, yeah, I am going to bring that back to base so I can get some upgrades done. Now, at this point, I'm not entirely sure whether I'm going to have enough to do everything. Spoiler alert, yeah, no, not even close. But with that much silver, I can do some very useful upgrades. So a bit like what I did with the swamp and iron, it can be worthwhile to just not hold out until you've got enough to do everything. You know, doing it in 2 or 3 trips and just upgrading as you go, you will definitely see some benefits for doing that. So here we are, we sailed back, we didn't see any of our serpent friends. It was actually a nice easy cruise actually this time for a change. So we're back at base, we're going to unload this and get this all smelted up. Don't worry, through the power of editing, you're not going to have to sit through the significant amount of time it took to actually smelt all of that silver ore. Now, I left this little bit in here so you can see all of the unlocks. So the silver bar, we've unlocked our armor, a couple of weapons, some more armor, a shield, some more weapons, and of course the butcher's table. Now the butcher's table is a very useful upgrade, which we'll make in a moment, but first, and this should definitely be the first thing that you make, is the wolf cape. And you're going to want to make it, and you're going to want to upgrade it as much as you can. It's the wolf cape that gives you a permanent version of what the frost resistance mead is doing for you in the mountains. So with the wolf cape, you don't need the frost resistance mead anymore, because you are resistant or immune to frost for the purposes of the weather effect in the mountains. Once you've done that, what you choose to spend your silver on is up to you. I believe the first thing I'm going to be working on is the Triskaidekaphobia bow. I am still using a fine wood bow, so I didn't even make the hunter's one. So I am somewhat overdue for a bow upgrade. The Triskaidekaphobia is, well, it's just awesome. Because it adds a poison effect to the arrows that you shoot out of it, on top of anything else that they might also be shooting. And that does include the poison arrows. Found out recently that the poison from the Triskaidekaphobia and the poison from the poison arrow, they do actually stack. Not thinking of too many scenarios where I would actually use that, but it's good to know. In the meantime, we're working on our cooking upgrade, which is the butcher's table. For the moment, I'm just jamming it over here in the corner, out of the way, but like all the other bench upgrades, it does need to be within proximity. And now that we have a level 3 cauldron, you can see that we've unlocked a couple of recipes that we can do with the wolf meat. Now, the one that I'm most keenly interested in is the wolf skewers. Now, some of the other recipes that you won't have seen, mostly because I've been doing the farming off camera, is the onion recipes. We are still farming our onions up, so I unlocked those recipes a little bit earlier. Now, onion soup will be our new stamina food. And we're going to use a combination of wolf skewers and sausages when we get to that point. For the moment, though, I don't have enough onions to do either of those, so we're just going to stick with our current food for a while longer. Here we are with our Triskaidekaphobia. Very nice bow. And we're going to get some upgrades on that one as well. Now, with all of that on board, we've now reached the end of this episode. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. In the meantime, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day.